big story. Pochettino wants to replace Conte at Tottenham. Can you see this one panning out, Shebahn?
We've heard this before, haven't we? This isn't the first time this has come up. We had read a couple of years ago now that Pochettino and Levy are still good pals who have holidayed together in the past and again since Poch had left the club. So I'm not massively surprised by this at all. The question is, are fans happy about this? Fans are rarely happy with Spurs at this moment in time and haven't been for quite some time. But I've been doing the rounds, seeing what has been said on the old blogs and Twitter, and a lot of fans would happily welcome Pochettino back because what he did for the club under the finances that he was given, and four top four finishes and getting to a Champions League final, looks good in comparison to what's been going on just now. But there's a number of fans saying, just do not go back. You know, we have to move forward. What will be next for Spurs? And so many fans raging about being knocked out of the FA Cup. You know, some saying that, okay, that being top four is still important just now, sitting in that fourth place spot and getting Champions League football. But we need trophies. That's how Spurs are mocked, you know, for now. And some fans saying that Conte has been Spursied and it's time for him to leave as well. Will Poch be making the return? It'll be interesting to see. I won't be surprised, but I don't think we're going to have happy fans.
What do you think, David? Is Pochettino more of a credible candidate than he was the first time he went to Tottenham to bring silverware? He has won a Ligue 1 title with Paris Saint-Germain. How do you see the fit second time around? Not always great when managers return.
Well, I don't think he's any more or less credible. He's a top manager and a really good character who's out of work and will surely come in under consideration for any top club. And that's the important thing here, because he may be open to a return to Tottenham. He may be open to other options as well. There's talk of pressure for Carlo Ancelotti at Real Madrid, and I suspect that Pochettino would be under consideration at clubs like that. There may be other vacancies that arise as well. There is a convenience factor here. One, because Pochettino lives in Hertfordshire. Two, because he knows Tottenham and Daniel Levy well, as Shebahn pointed out. And, you know, there will be that temptation if and when Antonio Conte leaves to turn back the clock, and Daniel Levy, you know, had enjoyed some really good times under or alongside Mauricio Pochettino. But it's complicated as well. You'll have some people saying they never should have parted, others saying they should never get back together. There was a bit of discord at the time, if you remember, after the Champions League final. It wasn't like he left in rosy circumstances, and that won't be far away from the memory as well. There's also the factor of the sporting director, Fabio Paratici, and what role he plays in this process, if there is to be a process, and who he wants, whether they go through a number of candidates. So it might be a romantic vision, but I think a lot has to happen before it comes to fruition.
David, in The Athletic today, I understand a piece was published regarding the situation at Tottenham Hotspur. Conte compared to Pochettino, perhaps, but also Thomas Tuchel's name came into the reckoning there.
Yeah, that piece by Jack Pickbrook was really interesting. I think Thomas Tuchel, another manager who's available, did a really good job across London at Chelsea. We don't know what his preference would be to getting back into management, whether he would want the Tottenham job, whether they would want him. But it's a top-level candidate for any position. And this is all supposing that Conte is going to be leaving, which seems to be the common consensus now. There's that option that can be activated in his contract. But obviously he's been through a lot in his personal life as well as what's been going on with the football. And he faces a huge match tomorrow night. I mean, we talked about seismic for Chelsea, but Tottenham hosting AC Milan tomorrow with a chance to themselves reach the last 16 of the Champions League. Conte will be fully focused on that. It'll be quite an extraordinary situation if he does leave, given that this was the manager that Daniel Levy turned to try and get Spurs over the line, to win major trophies. And they don't appear to be getting much closer, despite being a winning manager in his own right. But it was a bit of a mess, the recruitment process last time. That's certainly how it appeared to the outside world, with a number of candidates coming and going before at the second bite of the cherry they got Conte. And so if they're going to be in a process again now, they'll want it to be smoother. And we've mentioned two top level candidates, but I'm sure there'll be more as well.
Yeah, a long wait for a trophy, David, isn't it? It's 2019, the Champions League final, perhaps the closest they came. And Antonio Conte, head of the AC Milan ties, on the back page of the Metro, saying Spurs must embrace pressure. Shebahn, when they look at this 15-year wait for a trophy, has embracing pressure been one of the crucial issues for whatever players and managers have been at the club?
Absolutely, but the inconsistency is just so clear at this moment in time. You know, there was big moments for Spurs, you know, to go and beat Manchester City, then to beat West Ham and to beat Chelsea. And they think they're there, and then they drop out of the FA Cup against Sheffield United, and it's just that disappointment. Some people saying we get so used to it, it no longer hurts, and some fans just finding it unacceptable. And there's also that element of you bring in Antonio Conte, that they expected big things. They expect to start to win silverware, but this is Tottenham Hotspur as a club. You know, it's so disappointing. Is Daniel Levy the right guy? There's always been question marks over him as well. There are a number of problems there, but embracing the pressure is something. We've seen Graham Potter do it under such circumstances this week. And Heung-min Son saying in his press conference today, this is the biggest game of their season. Do they have that winning mentality? Are they ready for this? If they can go and get that win and get through to the quarterfinals, you imagine the tide will turn quickly again for Spurs.
You mentioned Heung-min Son, Shebahn, back page of the Star as well, go pretty heavy on his comments. Absolutely colossal. Heung-min Son has told Spurs they faced their biggest game of the season against AC Milan tonight. This is Wednesday's back page of the Star. David, how big is it? And Shebahn alluding there that if the players come up short, do you start looking at the club's ownership model ultimately? Because they've tried a lot of former Chelsea managers. Perhaps another one in Thomas Tuchel wouldn't be the answer. Perhaps it's the hierarchy that needs to review their approach.
Yeah, well, that's the age-old conversation about all clubs, Teddy, and it doesn't really tend to cause or produce much difference. Joe Lewis and Daniel Levy have been working in partnership now for many years. Joe Lewis right at the top of the tree and Daniel Levy in day-to-day control. There have been reports recently about potential takeovers, potential investment, and I'm sure as Tottenham, like many clubs, look to compete with the leading lights in the game, some of whom are almost nation-state owned, then they'll be looking for ways in which they can raise revenues, bring resources into the club. But I don't anticipate a change anytime soon. And I certainly don't see Daniel Levy wanting to relinquish control in the near future, given how thoroughly involved in the operation he is at Tottenham, but also within Premier League and European circles. So, yeah, Tottenham will need to get it right on the pitch, I think, rather than expecting changes, sort of major changes anyway, at boardroom level for the time being. And there'll be a lot of change, you may imagine, in the summer with the transfer market coming. Harry Kane, unless a new contract is signed, will only have a year to go. There's a lot of question marks about that squad and trying to strengthen it. They were looking pretty good recently, creeping into the top four, obviously in the Champions League knockout stage. But just recently, the wheels have come off somewhat, and they'll be desperate to get back to winning ways tomorrow night. That's going to be such an important moment for the club and the fan base.